A nation's grief. Candlelit vigil after presidential plane crash that's plunged Poland into mourning. We feel your pain, Putin tells Poles. Russian officials say pilot ignored air traffic warnings. Hungary's comeback kid, the Conservative challenger on calls for a landslide victory in today's election. And battlefield Bangkok, deadly clashes as Thailand's political crisis reaches boiling point. Well into the night in Warsaw, they gathered in their thousands. A people plunged into mourning by their president's brutal death. The plane crash that killed Lech Kaczynski, his wife Maria, and much of the ruling elite has been described as Poland's biggest post-war tragedy. Some believe it will fundamentally change the nation. It will definitely be a different country, possibly richer in experience, possibly paying more attention to what is important. I would like people to take something from this experience. People, not just politicians. With tragic irony, the delegation was flying to Russia to mark the 70th anniversary of the massacre of Polish officers by Soviet forces.
I am shocked still. I really don't know what to think about it. I mean, it's such a big loss and it just came so suddenly.
It's so terrible that the Polish, the most important Polish people, the Polish elite just died.
The aging Tupolev plane crashed near Smolensk in western Russia, close to where the wartime massacre took place.
Lech Kaczyński, prezydent Rzeczpospolitej Polskiej. Maria Kaczyńska, małżonka prezydenta.
As well as the presidential couple, military chiefs and the central bank governor are among the 97 dead. A week of national mourning has been declared. Poles will observe 2 minutes of silence at noon today.
Władysław Stasiak, szef kancelarii prezydenta.
Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin has vowed to uncover what caused the plane crash that killed Polish President Lech Kaczynski in western Russia on Saturday. Putin will personally oversee the inquiry into the accident that killed a total of 97 people when Kaczynski's presidential plane crashed close to an airport in Smolensk. The Russian premier said everything must be done to establish the reasons for this tragedy in the shortest possible time. Kaczynski, along with several members of Poland's political elite, had been on his way to a remembrance service for the victims of the Katyn massacre. Early reports indicate the pilot ignored requests to divert to another airport as foggy weather shrouded the runway at Smolensk. Putin and his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk met at the crash scene to pay their respects to the late president. Tusk has called the accident the most tragic event in Poland's post-war history, and a 2-minute silence will be held across the country at midday Central European time. Meanwhile, Kaczynski's twin brother Yaroslav, the leader of Poland's opposition Law and Justice Party and himself a former Prime Minister, has also visited the site. He flew in late Saturday to help identify some of the victims.
Like Ronald Reagan, Lech Kaczynski was a president who first found fame in the movies. He and his twin brother Yaroslav were child stars of a popular Polish film. Their double act continued in politics, from the anti-communist solidarity movement to co-founding the nationalist and conservative Law and Justice Party. For a time, one was Poland's president, the other prime minister. The country has been an EU member since 2004, but Lech Kaczynski was known for his deep distrust of the bloc. The relationship between Poland and Germany is particularly sensitive, marked by centuries of mistrust and deep scars from World War II. But Kaczynski ended up having a good understanding with Chancellor Angela Merkel. She said Germany would miss him. Having taken office in 2005, the devoutly Roman Catholic Kaczynski had been expected to seek a fresh 5-year mandate in an election this autumn. Under Polish law, parliamentary speaker Bronisław Komorowski is now acting president, and the poll will take place by the end of June. He's addressed the nation on television. Komorowski is the candidate of Poland's ruling Civic Platform Party. Opinion polls had shown him winning the largely symbolic presidential post. Hungary's political landscape looks poised to change in today's elections. A conservative comeback, a rout for the ruling socialists, and a breakthrough for the far right are all being forecast. The country's complex two-round election system makes it hard to predict the allocation of parliamentary seats, but opinion polls give every reason to believe that Viktor Orban's centre-right opposition party, Fidesz, is headed for a landslide. It would mark a return to power for Orban, who was Prime Minister from 1998 to 2002. Since then, the Socialists have served 2 consecutive terms, but their candidate for the premiership is expected to be punished for painful budget cuts that have alienated many voters. The nationalist Jobbik Party could emerge as the second biggest parliamentary force, capitalising on public anger over economic hardship and antagonism towards the Roma minority. It won 3 seats in the European Parliament last year. The far-right political movement is now expected to enter Hungary's parliament for the first time. Bangkok has been transformed into a battleground. Clashes between security forces and anti-government protesters in the Thai capital have left at least 18 people dead and more than 800 injured. This was the biggest confrontation of a month-long street campaign for new elections and Bangkok's worst political violence in nearly 20 years. In a crackdown aimed at halting the protests, troops fired rubber bullets and tear gas. Demonstrators fought back with guns, grenades and petrol bombs. A Japanese cameraman was among the dead. After hours of violence, soldiers retreated, but the deadlock continues, with so-called red shirt protesters determined Thailand's Prime Minister Abhisit Vejjajiva must leave power. Sudan is holding its first multi-party elections in nearly a quarter of a century, but the vote has already been marred by allegations of fraud that have prompted several leading opposition parties to pull out of the race. Their absence clears the way for President Omar al-Bashir to win another 4-year term. He's wanted by the International Criminal Court for alleged war crimes in Darfur. The EU has withdrawn its election observers from the western region amid safety fears. The US-based Carter Center still has monitors on the ground. These presidential, parliamentary and municipal polls are central to the implementation of a peace deal that ended a civil war between the country's north and south. But amid deep poverty and after decades of internal violence, Sudan is struggling to find stability.